The UK regulators have posted their concerns about the Activision purchase by Microsoft, and Xbox has responded to those concerns, which seem very Sony focused. There's a lot to dive in here now. Let's start with the gamesindustry.biz article right now. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. While I dive into it, please consider hitting that subscribe button and hitting that bell to help the channel grow. So, UK regulators details concerns over Microsoft's proposed acquisition of Activision Blizzard, and Xbox has responded. So here's what the CMA has said. There is a realistic prospect of a substantial lessening of competition in gaming consoles, multi-game subscription services, and cloud gaming services, said the firm in an extensive document. The CMA is concerned that having full control over this powerful catalog, especially in light of Microsoft's already strong position in gaming consoles. In gaming consoles, really? They're the... I mean, I'll give you the other stuff, but gaming consoles? Anyway, they continue. Especially in light of Microsoft's already strong position in gaming consoles, operating systems, and cloud infrastructure, could result in Microsoft harming consumers by impairing Sony's, Microsoft's closest gaming rival, ability to compete, as well as that of other existing rivals and potential new entrants who could otherwise bring healthy competition through innovative multi-game subscriptions and cloud gaming services. Here, the reason I don't like CMA's response is because their main focus is very clearly to protect Sony at all costs. And those other people too, we guess. It's so strange to me that they've literally taken every one of Sony's talking points and just reiterated them as though they're their concerns. Maybe that's normal for the CMA to do, but to me it comes off really weird that they name Sony and protecting Sony as one of their chief concerns for the anti-competition claims. And they continue. The CMA recognizes that ABK's newest games are not currently available on any subscription service on the day of release, but considers that this may change as subscription services continue to grow. After the merger, Microsoft would gain control of this important input and could use it to harm the competitiveness of its rivals. I'm going to read that one more time just so I have a clear understanding. Subscriptions are a key part of its concerns, as the CMA believes it's possible, even likely, that without this deal, Activision Blizzard games may have come to other subscription services too. The CMA recognizes that ABK's newest games are not currently available on any subscription service on the day of release, but considers that this may change as subscription services continue to grow. After the merger, Microsoft will gain control of this important input and could use it to harm the competitiveness of its rivals. I might give the CMA this one because what they're saying is that, hey, maybe Activision games would have come to subscription services someday. They don't now, but maybe they could have in the future. And if Microsoft owns them, they definitely won't come to other subscription services. Yeah, I mean, why would they? Microsoft owns it. They'll put them on their subscription service, just as Ubisoft will put their games on their subscription service, etc. And Sony has the option to also. Yeah, I don't know. That one seems a little flimsy to me. Like, I kind of get where they're coming from. Hey, maybe in the future, Xbox Game Pass could have come to PlayStation. That was never going to happen, but it could have. And if this deal goes through, maybe I don't know. It seems a little weak. It seems a little weak in my opinion. In terms of yeah, it's like saying, so if Microsoft buys this company, they might not want to put the thing that they own on another streaming service, but if they didn't own this company, maybe that would have happened. Yeah, well, I mean, I get it, but I don't feel like that's negatively impacting competition in any way, because like Ubisoft Plus has a lot of good games on it. I don't know. I'm kind of reacting to this in real time, so I haven't formulated all my thoughts. Anyway, in terms of streaming, the CMA's concerns are around Microsoft's potential in this market due to its ownership of the Azure cloud gaming service, plus its PC operating system. It believes that there's a chance that this, coupled with the ownership of Activision Blizzard, will give Microsoft an unparalleled advantage over other cloud streaming providers. Now, this is a point that I said that they should be hitting on, but here's what the CMA actually said. Oh, wait. This is Microsoft's response, which is interesting. These unsupported theories of harm are not sufficient to justify a reference to Phase 2, Microsoft has said in a detailed response to the decision. It cites PlayStation's current market-leading position with a console install base of 150 million versus Xbox's install base of 63.7 million. It also says that Sony's current market leadership has seen it conduct practices such as raising the price of its console without fear of losing market share. This follows the recent news that Sony was increasing the price of PlayStation 5 following rising production costs. So it's interesting that they're like, we have to protect Sony. Oh, we see that they're doing all this stuff that's bad, but we need to protect them for reasons. Okay. And the 150 million console units versus 63.7 million, and yet they say Microsoft has a strong console position. I mean, strong against who? Sega, the Sega Mini, I guess. I mean, in that respect, I guess. And it continues on. In statements shared with GameIndustry.biz, Microsoft argued the suggestion that the incumbent market leader will, with clear and enduring market power, could be foreclosed by the third largest provider as a result of losing access to one title is not credible. I absolutely agree with Microsoft in that statement. The idea that they're just going to dissolve because Microsoft buys Activision, that's not going to happen. That's ridiculous. And they say it nice. They say it's not credible. It's nonsense. That would not happen. Microsoft posited? I don't know that word. Microsoft posited, although doesn't share any figures, that I think it's supposed to be poised. I don't know. I think that's a typo. Microsoft poised, although it doesn't. I'm going to move on. They don't share any figures that if every single Call of Duty player on Sony's console would switch to Xbox, the PlayStation gamer base remaining would be significantly larger than Xbox. So Microsoft's basically saying, even if every single Call of Duty player on Sony's console switched to Xbox, the PlayStation gamer base remaining will be significantly larger than Xbox. Now, I don't know about that, but I do know this. A large amount of Sony's revenue comes from Call of Duty. I think it's like $1.7 billion. Even if every single cent of that was removed from their profit margin, they're still making $3 billion profit every year. So they would be absolutely fine. They would still be the market leader if they lost every single cent from the Call of Duty deal. But Microsoft has said multiple times that they don't want to lose that revenue for them because they get their cut too from making it exclusive. Let's just read this part because I actually cut out. Microsoft also talked about the level of content available on Sony's platform, pointing out that some of Sony's recent but significantly smaller acquisitions, the company says there were over 280 first and third-party exclusive titles on PlayStation in 2021, which was nearly 5 times as many as Xbox. In short, Sony is not vulnerable to a hypothetical foreclosure strategy, and the referral decision incorrectly relies on self-serving statements by Sony. Yes, the statement is literally exactly what Sony said. And they're just reiterating the concerns of Sony and nobody else. The fact that the UK government would take one competitor and like they're smart enough to know that Sony is the big dog in town and Microsoft is trying to like rise up and be at their level, right? So that we have that competitive nature that I always talk about. The fact that they've asked everybody, nobody else expressed concerns except Sony, and they're only referencing Sony. I would have felt better about this if Google also had concerns because Google and Sony met with them, but it is strange to me that they only mentioned Sony. It's very weird because they're smarter than that. Anyway, on self-serving statements by Sony would significantly exaggerate the importance of Call of Duty to it and neglect to account for Sony's clear ability to competitively respond. Yes, they have $5 billion in profit. They could absolutely respond. Absolutely. Microsoft said they made, we found out recently that Microsoft made like what, $3 billion in profit in 2021 from Game Pass. And what did they do with that 3 billion, not 3 billion in revenue, sorry, for Game Pass. And they were able to turn that into paying for Arc 2, for example, for 3 years for $2.3 million. Now, if you're taking a couple $1 billion and you're using 2.3 million of it on one game, that seems like they're being smart with their money. Anyway, so Sony could do the same, is my argument. While Sony may not welcome increased competition, it has the ability to adapt and compete. Gamers will ultimately benefit from this increased competition and choice. I agree with that. I think if Sony's pushed a little bit more, they're going to have to get creative with the type of games that they're making. They're still going to have Call of Duty on their platform. I actually want to see Sony feel the squeeze a little bit so they stop doing stuff like increasing console prices. Like, they'd have to be more careful about decisions like that. They probably wouldn't make decisions like that. So anyway, once again, Microsoft reiterated its intention to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation consoles. It stated that taking Call of Duty away from PlayStation would alienate the fan base and tarnish both the Call of Duty and Xbox brands. It absolutely would. So even they admit, like, we can't make it exclusive. We would be the bad guy. And they probably would be. So there's that consideration. And there's also the consideration that they would lose a lot of money. Microsoft made no suggestion it would make Call of Duty available on other subscription services. However, the company observed that as Game Pass isn't available on PlayStation, the CMA is concerned that such a deal would tip subscription services in Xbox's favor is not accurate. Microsoft also believes that with the continued popularity of traditional buy-to-play and free-to-play models means that Game Pass will always face strong competition. I'm not going to give Microsoft this one. Game Pass is a phenomenal service. They know it's a phenomenal subscription service. They know it would take time for somebody to compete against it. And I don't know if I agree on that free-to-play models are like tough to compete against Game Pass. But so I think that's one of their weaker arguments, honestly. Microsoft concluded that this area of CMA's concerns by saying that if gamers do choose to leave PlayStation for Xbox, it will be because Xbox is offering choice in its approach to how games can be bought. I mean, that is why they're leaving, aka you can have access to every Call of Duty and every Call of Duty thing for $9.99 a month, or you can play on PlayStation and pay $70 for the game. Like, that's the real crux of it, right? I mean, if you stretch that out to a year, though, let's say you're paying $10 a year, you're actually paying $120 for the game, if you think about it that way. But you get all this additional benefit of 399 other games. So that's why the benefit analysis is there. Anyway, should any consumers decide to switch from a gaming platform that does not give them a choice as to how to pay for new games, PlayStation, to one that does Xbox, and then I got to read it again. Should any consumers decide to switch from a gaming platform that does not give them a choice as to how to pay for new games, PlayStation, to one that does, Xbox, then that is the sort of consumer switching behavior that the CMA should consider welfare enhancing and indeed encourage. It is not something that the CMA should be trying to prevent. Kind of agree there. Microsoft believes the CMA's concerns are flawed currently because Microsoft's Xbox Cloud Gaming Service does not use Azure and does not stream games from PC hardware. That's interesting. I did not know that. So it has nothing to do with Azure. I don't really understand why this deal would impact that aspect of the conversation. Consumer adoption of cloud gaming remains low, it said. Harming or degrading rival services would significantly set back adoption of this technology, protecting market-leading incumbents, Sony on console, Apple gaming on mobile, as well as Steam on PC. Xbox is a platform which is in last place in console, 7th place in PC, and nowhere in the mobile game distribution globally, has no incentive to do this. Instead, its incentive is to encourage the widespread adoption of cloud gaming technologies by as many providers as possible, and to encourage the major shift in consumer behavior required for cloud gaming to succeed. So reading this article from GameIndustry.biz, I think it's the best roundup that I've seen where Microsoft's comments are well stated and the CMA's comments are well rounded up. I'm going to make another video about this because Tom Warren has some tweets. There's been a lot of updates to this just since this game industry article has posted. There's things like people are sending me stuff like this tweet from Xbox News for Koreans that says, for COD for Xbox, no extra content that is not available on PlayStation, no hardware enhancement better than PlayStation, no Xbox Game Pass benefits. That's Sony's requirement to allow Microsoft to acquire Activision. I got to find out where this came from. For example, I think it's from the CMA. Let's see, 172. So we have this open. Let's see if that's actually a thing. I figure it's from this. So this, anyway, this is going to be a whole separate video. But this is what Sony is saying. Third-party views also covered in, yeah, so that's what Sony is asking for, or is that what the CMA is asking for? The citation is one. You know what? SIE's response to question 18. Yes, so that's Sony's ask for the limitations. We're going to dive into that in another video, but I got to say, thank you so much for watching. I have one more thing to tell you before we stop watching the video. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell. Thank you so much to the members, and if you want to become a member, you can click that join button. It's like right there, so click that join button. And before I go, thank you for watching, but if you want to learn more about what Sony has said to the Brazilian government, I have a 3-part breakdown. I'll link to the first part here. Where Sony just seems like really worried about this deal. And it's interesting because you see what Sony said about the deal in these documents being echoed by the CMA. So check out that video, hit subscribe. You can hit this big logo that I put up, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye for now, everybody.